damn fool.
She's a very beautiful woman, mademoiselle.
Oh, yeah, she's beautiful, all right. Then about 3 years ago, there was another scandal. Old Sir Roger Erskine left her every penny he had. I should have thought that would have opened Ken's eyes if nothing else did.
And did it not?
He seems to have an absolutely blind belief in her. Well, you can see for yourself. Look how she's making up to Patrick Redfern. He's the kind of handsome idiot that's meat and drink to Arlena. I don't think that poor little washed-up wife of his will stand a chance against a man-eating tigress like Arlena.
You've met this Redfern fellow before, I gather.
Yes, darling, at a cocktail party somewhere or other. I thought he was rather a pet.
Did you know that he and his wife were coming here?
Gracious, no. It was a complete surprise.
I thought perhaps that was what put the idea of this place into your mind. You were very insistent that we should come here.
Kenneth, darling, I'm trying to do my mascara. You're not going to be horrid, are you?
Look, Arlena, the boy is obviously quite fond of his wife, and she obviously adores him. Do you have to upset the whole show?
It's so unfair blaming me. I haven't done anything. It's not my fault if people go crazy about me.
So, you admit that young Redfern is crazy about you?
It's really rather stupid of him. But you know that I don't actually care for anyone but you, don't you, darling?
I think I know you pretty well, Arlena.
Did you know that woman was going to be here?
I don't understand what you mean.
You insisted on coming here. I wanted to go to Tintagel again, but you were absolutely set on this place.
You're being ridiculous. Don't let's quarrel about it.
I don't want to quarrel.
Then behave like a reasonable human being.
So, you're the famous sleuth, eh?
Yes, I am Hercule Poirot.
Blatt, Horace Blatt. Very pleased to meet you. Down here on a job, eh?
No, nothing of the kind. I'm taking an holiday.
You'd say that anywhere, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily.
We'd be safe enough with me, you know. Learned to keep my mouth shut years ago. Shouldn't have gone on the way I have if I hadn't learned to do that. Same with you, I expect. You've got to keep it up that you're just here on a holiday.
And why should you suppose the contrary?
I'm a man of the world, Mr. Poirot. A chap like you would be at Deauville or the Touquet or Joan Lepin. That's more your spiritual home.
I should have expected that you too might have been more at home in Deauville or Biarritz.
Instead of which, we're both stuck in this dump in the pouring rain. Oh, God knows why I came here. I think it was because the place sounded romantic. The Jolly Roger on Smuggler's Island. Makes you think of when you were a boy. I brought the boat down here with me too.
Oh, you enjoy sailing, Mr. Blatt?
Can't get enough of it. Redfern's keen on it too. I'd hoped he'd come out with me a bit, but he's a lost cause now. Always hanging round that red-haired Mrs. Marshall. I should think that her husband's got his hands full looking after her. Oh, but here comes young Redfern. Better drop the subject. Evening, Patrick, my boy. What's it to be?
Oh, thanks. I'll have a martini.
One martini, please, Doris. And you, Mr. Poirot?
No, not for me, thank you.
Suit yourself, my friend. And another glass of the usual for me, please, Doris.
Right, sir.
Oh, it's so good to be back on Smuggler's Island again. I used to come here on holiday from Ireland when I was a kid. I potted about in a dinghy. That was long before there was a hotel here, of course.
And what was it like in those days?
There were just a few fishermen's cottages at Leathercombe and an old tumble-down house here on the island, all shut up. There were stories about secret passages leading down from the house to Pixie's Cave. We were always searching for them.
Here's your martini, Patrick.
Thanks.
What's all this about the Pixie's Cave?
Cheers. It's on Pixie Cove. The entrance is hidden by a lot of piled-up boulders. The cave's like a long, thin crack. You can just squeeze through it.
But what is this Pixie?
A kind of West Country fairy spirit. There are scores of tales about them in Devon and Cornwall. There are tours on Dartmoor where they're supposed to live, and I expect the farmers coming home after a thick night still complain of being pixie-led.
You mean when they've had one over the eight?
Well, that's certainly the common sense explanation.
Well, time to get ready for dinner. On the whole, pirates are more my kind of thing than pixies.
For a hard-bitten businessman, Mr. Blatt seems to have a very romantic imagination. Do you know him well?
No, not really. I've been out sailing with him once or twice, but he doesn't really like having anyone with him. He prefers to be on his own.
Oh, that is indeed curious. It is singularly unlike his practice on land.
It's always pretty difficult keeping out of his way.
I think, Mr. Redfern, that you enjoy living.
Well, certainly I do. Why not?
Why not, indeed? That is why, as a much older man, I venture to offer you a little piece of advice.
And what is that?
A very wise friend of mine in the police force said to me years ago, Hercule, my friend, if you would know tranquility, avoid women.
It's a bit too late for that. I'm a married man.
I know that. And your wife is a very charming, very accomplished woman. She is, I think, very fond of you.
I'm very fond of her.
I'm delighted to hear it.
Look here, Monsieur Poirot, what exactly are you getting at?
Les femmes, they are capable of complicating life unbearably. And the English, they conduct their affairs in a manner that is indescribable. If it was necessary for you to come here, Mr. Redfern, why, in the name of heaven, did you bring your wife?
I haven't the faintest idea what you were talking
You know
about.
perfectly. I am not so foolish as to argue with an infatuated man. I utter only the word of caution.
You've been listening to those stupid women, Mrs. Gardner and Miss Brewster. They've got nothing better to do with their lives than concoct spiteful stories. Just because a woman's good-looking, they're onto her like a pack of harpies.
Are you really so naive as all that, Mr. Redfern? Once again, I say to you, take care. She is a very dangerous woman.
If only we had the whole island to ourselves.
The whole island? I'd settle for a room with a strong lock on the door.
Got to find somewhere we can really be alone together for hours and hours.
It would seem that Mr. Redfern has not taken my advice.
You really do love me then?
I adore you. Don't you know that by now?
She is like an animal, that woman, and a very vicious one.
Remarkable night. Eh, Poirot? Looks as though we should have fine weather tomorrow.
Let us hope so, Captain Marshall. Good night.
Good night.
It is as I felt in Egypt, that fatal night on the Nile. I am certain that a murder is going to be committed, and I feel utterly powerless to prevent it. How can one stand in the way of the inevitable?
Monsieur Poirot? Monsieur Poirot?
Yes, madame. There is something I can do?
Oh, you can give me a hand with this pedalo. I can't launch it by myself.
Of course, madame.
Just a bit further. Give it a good push. Thank you, Monsieur Poirot. That's splendid. Oh, you've wet your shoes.
Yes, I have.
I'm so sorry. Could you do something for me?
And what is that, madame?
Don't tell anyone I've gone. Everyone will follow me about, so for once I just want to be alone.
Of course, madame. Your secret is safe with me.
Thank you.
Bye.
I doubt if Arlena Stewart has ever wanted to be alone in her life. She has a rendezvous to keep, and I have a very good idea with whom. And here comes Patrick Redfern. So I was mistaken about a rendezvous with his femme fatale. Has she perhaps given him the slip? Good morning, Mr. Redfern.
Oh, good morning.
Everyone seems to be up early today.
Yes, must be the weather. Christine was up ages ago. Went off sketching somewhere.
I went and found a suitable deck chair for myself in the shade. And still Patrick Redfern paced miserably up and down by the side of the sea.
Oh, the wind's from the west again. It's always a good sign when you can hear the Lethercombe church clock.
Miss Brewster, I was wondering if you were going for your usual row this morning.
Why, I certainly am. I had to spend all day yesterday cooped up in my hotel room looking at the rain.
Would you mind if I came with you?
I'd be delighted.
We could row round the island.
Oh, shall we have time? Oh, yes. Ages to go before lunch. I'll just take these things back to my room and we'll set off.
It would have been pleasant to remain where I was, sitting in the sun. But I knew that Mrs. Gardner was longing to talk to me about the secret of the Great Pyramid and the mystic science of numbers. Somehow I did not feel quite in the mood for this, and so I went for a little stroll, wondering where Elena Marshall had gone off to so mysteriously on her pedalo, and why she had chosen to keep her rendezvous a secret from Patrick Redfern.
I shall probably have a fair crop of blisters by the time we get back.
You're certainly setting quite a pace.
Isn't it a marvellous day? When the sun really shines in England, there's nothing to beat it.
Can't beat England anyway, in my opinion. The only place in the world to live in.
I'm with you there, Miss Brewster. Anyone on Sunny Ledge this morning?
Yes, I can see a sunshade.
Oh, any idea who it is?
Yes, it's Miss Darnley, I think. She's got one of those Japanese parasol affairs. We ought to have gone the other way round. We've got the current against us.
There's not much of a current, really. I've swum out here and scarcely notice it.
Depends on the tide, of course. But they always say that bathing from Pixie Cove is dangerous if you swim too far out.
I've never had much trouble. We're coming round to Pixie Cove now.
Can't take his eyes off the cliffs. He's looking for Elena. That's why he wanted to come with me. She hasn't shown up this morning and he's wondering what she's up to. I wouldn't be surprised if she's done it on purpose. Just a move in the game to make him keener.
There's someone on the beach. I can't quite make out who it is.
It looks like Elena. That green Chinese hat of hers is unmistakable.
I think you may be right.
We don't want to land here, do we?
Oh, we could just stop for a moment to have a word with her. There's lots of time.
Well, if you really must. Poor boy. He's got it really badly. I suppose he'll get over it in time.
Arlena!
That's funny. She's lying face down on the sand as if she were sunbathing. But there's no sun. She's in the shadow of the cliff.
Arlena? Arlena? Oh, my God.
What is it? What's happened?
She's dead. It looks as if she's been strangled.
I don't want to see. We shouldn't touch anything. We'd better get the police.
But it just isn't possible. Who would want to kill her?
We must go for the police. I suppose one of us ought to stay with the body. You do that and I'll go.
Oh, please be as quick as you can.
Yes, I will. But I'll have to go in the boat. I can't face that rickety ladder up the cliff. There's a police station in Lethercombe. I'll get them here as soon as I can.